Good morning. My name's Lynn Stoddard. I am the executive director of a program called SustainableCT, as in Sustainable Connecticut. We are a program to basically help towns implement actions to make their communities better places for everyone to live and more climate friendly. So we focus on inclusion, resilience, carbon friendly policies, and how to change municipal decisions with climate and equity in mind. So you guys have a scenario that's very closely aligned to this for the Envirothon and picking climate actions and how would you actually get those done in the town. So pretty much what we do every day with towns. So I'm going to show you a bunch of examples and resources, and hopefully this will be useful. I am not as fancy as the previous presenter, so just shout out if you have a question, and we'll see what's most helpful. So I'm just going to start out with a basic overview of what our program is. So I'm not going to read this to you, but we really focus on sustainability in a very broad sense. And as you'll see in my presentation and what we're going to talk about, we talk about what are the things that make a town a great place to live. And for us, we gathered mayors and municipal staff and residents from all over the state and asked them what makes a town a great place to live. And then we put together this list of best practices. We provide support to help towns do those things. And then we elevate their successes. They can get a certification. So if they've achieved certain actions and a certain amount, they earn bronze or silver or gold status. So how many towns are there in Connecticut? Do we know that? 169. Okay. And what, just shout out what towns you live in. Awesome. Okay. So we have people from one of the waters, Ford or Bury? Okay, cool. Stafford, great. So a lot of those towns are active in our program, and I'm going to show you how to see what your town's doing, which is pretty cool. So again, it's this roadmap of best practices. We have funding and technical assistance to help towns implement the actions, and then we celebrate their achievements and share them through the certification and the visibility around that. Again, sustainability very broadly defined. So these are the categories. Within each of these categories, there's 5 to 10 things a town can do. And we'll dig in a little bit so you can see what those are. But we're talking about not just environmental stuff, but affordable housing, preventing homelessness, vibrant arts and culture. So think for a minute, what's a cool town you've been to? And what was great about it? What makes a town great in your mind? Just shout it out. Walkability.
Cute downtown area.
Cute downtown, maybe some restaurants, some art. Yep. It's got a concentrated little Main Street area that's quaint. Yeah, got a nice Main Street. What about the students? Anything that you love about your town, or what's that? Mystic. Why do you like Mystic?
Yeah, it's really pretty.
Yes. Yep. Beautiful, capturing the natural beauty. Yeah. Access to nature, right? Okay, so a lot of those things are what's woven into SustainableCT, in addition to things with really high climate impact, and they're all interconnected. So if you see those icons at the bottom of the screen, as we get into our list of hundreds of actions, you can actually sort to see what benefits they have. So in protection of the environment, cost savings, community building, resilience, as you just heard a lot about, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and so on. And Sue mentioned flower. The person who developed this flower model also consulted us as we were developing our program. And it's basically everything's connected. So the list you just looked at has these same things. A town, people need a thriving economy. They need to be resilient. You need to be addressing health and wellness. But at the center of this flower, she has connection. And that's what we're about, like bringing people together in your town to make it the place you really want it to be, to make it better. There's always things that can increase how comfortable, welcome we feel in our towns, and maybe clean up some spaces so they're more welcoming to be in, make it more efficient, reduce our impact on the climate, and so on. So yeah, a little bit more about those actions. Here's some examples. So towns in our list of best practices, reducing energy use across all your municipal buildings. So your schools, your town hall, your libraries, and so on. And we actually have a data platform that's run by EPA, so it's national, and towns can use that to help track energy data in this school, in every other municipally owned building in the town, and see how much energy you're using, how that changes over time, and actually then use that to inform making decisions about energy reductions. So that's a big one. Watershed protection programs, arts and culture initiatives. Again, I'm not going to read through the whole list, but you can see it's a variety from housing and wellness to the more standard environmental stuff, to also practices that are like pro-sustainability permitting process. So if you want to build something in the town, you got to go through planning and zoning or the building office. How does a town change that to make it easier to promote the stuff that we all want to see, that's protecting the environment and making the town a better place? So here's, we have 169 towns, as you said, 131 are participating in our program. You can see the dots where the towns are all over the state. Of those, 59 are certified. So they've done a certain number of these actions and engaged a lot of people in that work. We have some funding to support towns in implementing these actions. So we've invested almost $3 million. I can talk a little bit more about that funding program later. And basically at the heart of it, we're really working to connect people within their community around these goals and defining the goals and the vision they have there for their communities. Here's the certification levels: bronze, silver, and we just added gold. And so if you think back to that slide that had all the different categories, one of the foundation of our program is equity. So that is meaning that people feel included, welcomed, the benefits are spread throughout all populations in the community, and harm is also not, we're looking at that. So neighborhoods and populations aren't the ones always receiving environmental pollution or whatever, that really managing it for everyone in the community. So the towns have to do this equity action, which I'll talk about in a minute, because you guys need to have an equity lens in the solution you're proposing for your scenario. And then they have to do one thing in each of the categories and a certain amount of points. So we got bronze, silver. This year we added gold. And this is just when towns get certified, they get publicly recognized. So Mindy's from Coventry. Here's her town manager receiving an award a few years ago. And this is from a couple of years ago. The motivator for towns is they like to get these, they like public recognition, both like the mayors and the elected officials, but also to show people in the town, this is a great place to live. We have great, what does a realtor say? We have great schools here. We have lots of parks, sidewalks and whatnot. And we've been certified as a sustainable community. So it can help kind of demonstrate that a third independent party has said that your town's doing a lot of cool stuff to make it a better place to live. And it can help unite a lot of volunteers and town committees working on ag or economic development or energy into kind of like a same goal of using our platform to go for certification. So let's talk a little bit more about equity. I mentioned it's the one required action. Otherwise they have choice of which actions. And yes, we know that actually where people live is in our current systems is a big indicator of lots of their access to opportunity, health and wellness, and so on, because we've had parts of our communities that are disproportionately impacted by environmental pollution or lack of investment or having their neighborhood cut off from the rest of the town by a highway or something. So, you know, many reasons for equity, and that's why it was important for us to make it a foundation of our program. We have a lot of support tools to help towns do that. One is called our Equity Toolkit. And I have in my last slide a list of resources and where to find them if you think that they might be useful. So basically, with our Equity Toolkit, we're encouraging towns to really look around and understand who lives and works in your communities. And you can kind of see some examples of different types of populations, single people, races and ethnicities, LGBTQ, people work on a shift, a non-traditional shift, different income levels, and so on. So kind of looking at that lens of who lives in your community, how might you connect with them? There are lots of opportunities. There are organizations, nonprofits, community-based groups that can help connect with them. And we're asking the towns to create a dialogue. So has anyone ever been to like a town council meeting or a public hearing for planning and zoning? Okay, so some of the old adults, they're usually held like at 7 o'clock on a weeknight in the town hall. You have to be there in person. If you want to talk to the town leaders about something you don't like or a decision they're making, that's how you do it. Either that or you send in written comments. It's not very accessible, right? What if you work at night? What if you have young kids at home? And so on. So we're trying to encourage towns to figure out different ways of interacting, and especially with people who aren't like coming to those public meetings and always available to get there, and just identifying how they might connect with different neighborhood groups or community organizations or faith communities to get input on what a town is doing so that it really reflects the whole community. Yeah, so this is just kind of our process. I don't think I need to go through it in detail, but the town essentially connects with people in the community they haven't heard from before around a question. So one of our actions is what we call complete streets. It's also a climate action. Does anyone know what that term means or want to guess? That's a good idea. Yeah. So true, streets are made of asphalt. The runoff is basically going into the watershed. That is certainly an environmental improvement. When we talk about complete streets, we're basically talking about the streets should be a place that are used and usable and welcoming and safe for everyone. Is there a sidewalk? Can bikers use it? Is there public transit? So not just like the almighty car with 1 or 2 people driving in it, but it's a space. And some of the spaces you mentioned, like the Chester downtown or Middlefield, the main street, those places, you'll see cars, buses, bikes, walkers, kids in strollers, people on canes. Complete streets means we're opening up access. And while we're doing it, this is multi-solving. This is part of the flower. We're enabling different ways of getting around the town. One, walking's healthier than going in a car. If you can walk there, great. So there are health benefits. 2, you're not using fossil fuels when you're on your bike or walking. So you're reducing the emissions that contribute to climate change. And connectivity, you know, you're more likely to talk to someone if you're walking by with a stroller or just casually strolling than if everyone's in their cars, and many other benefits. So what the towns are doing is like applying this lens. If we want to make a complete street, we have to consider all populations. We have to consider people who don't have cars, people, like I said, who are older and using a cane or a wheelchair, or little tiny people in strollers and so on. And then they change the decision about how they're designing and modifying their streets based on input from those people. And one of the cool examples of how they get that input is what we call a walk audit. So you try to get people from all different of those segments, people on bikes, people walking with a stroller, with a cane, whatever, bring them together with maps and say, we're going to walk through our town today. And you're going to mark like what's difficult for you, what's hard. You might have a person who likes to walk, has a cane, but they need a bench like every half a block or something. And if you don't have that, so getting the real people who use the streets out to audit them and monitor them so the town can begin to get their thinking from the community and the users and make changes based on that. So that's sort of how we embed an equity mindset into the work that towns are doing with SustainableCT. We also, in addition to the certifications I mentioned, we have the climate leader designation. So we've taken our list of actions and flagged the ones that actually help reduce climate greenhouse gas emissions or help adapt to the changing climate, the resilience piece that you heard in the last presentation. Towns that do those things get elevated as climate leaders. Last year was our first year of the program, and Fairfield, Glastonbury, New Britain, Stratford, and West Hartford all achieved climate leadership. So I didn't hear any of those towns. Did I miss any? Was anyone in the room from any one of those 5 towns? Okay, so it's a new program, but it's cool. 5 towns already started working on it. And I think for you guys, these are the kinds of actions that towns are working on to achieve climate leader. So most of them did complete streets, which I just talked about, and benchmarking the energy use in the municipal buildings, which I said, and then reducing that in their schools, libraries, and so town hall and so on. And then the bullets at the bottom are other things they've done to get credit towards being recognized as a climate leader. So CPACE refers to commercial property assessed clean energy. It basically means you're working with small businesses in your town to improve their energy efficiency. Open space plans. So why would open space be tagged by us as a climate action? Any ideas? What's important about open space that's related to climate change? What grows in open space more than on a road?
Or
Forests, plants. What do plants and trees do? They filter water so they can help with extreme storm events. They also, they sequester carbon. So we've talked about lots of things that spew carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, our cars, our power plants, and so on. Trees absorb it, and we need more of that. So that's why open space and maintaining open space and healthy woodlands and forests is really important climate activity. Bike-friendly communities. EV means electric vehicle, so putting in chargers. Sue mentioned electric vehicles as a climate strategy earlier today. Energy efficiency in wastewater treatment plants and processing of water that we use and need to clean. Renewable energy, so putting solar on your schools and town buildings, of course, and the lighting, all the lighting outside as well as in our buildings that are on our street lights, looking at those to do an inventory, make sure, 1, do you need as much lighting as you have? And 2, is it the most efficient lighting you can have? And does it have controls to like turn off during the day and on at night and so on? And materials management is kind of the term policymakers use for recycling. So obviously, if we're reusing or reducing use of something, we are totally reducing energy use, resource use, emissions, and all the things that come with collecting and disposing of that stuff. Yes.
Want to work on something. I know you said you're going to talk about the money later, but is there grants or funding to help towns? Let's say they want to create a streetlight inventory and see if they need to convert them to LEDs, or what if they do, who's buying the LEDs, the town, do they get funding?
Yeah, it's a great question. So resources, funding, and that's the next section. And yeah, we have a lot of partners. So this first part is more technical assistance. We have professionals on contract who act as equity coaches, who have lived experience in coming from places where they may not have been felt valued as much as white people. And or, you know, one of the equity things is bringing the voice of youth in more to policymaking, and not just adults and people working in professional fields. So we've got equity support. We've got a lot of workshops and trainings. We have a program in the summer where we employ college students from all over the state to help towns. And then we have many partner organizations like Department of Energy, Environmental Protection, and others that help towns with these actions. So let me get to the money part. It's called our Community Match Fund. And this is one source. This is our internal source of money for towns. So what we do is, you can see, we say, who's got a great idea for their town? So this is an example in, I think it's in like Portland or Middletown, the Kid to Farm camp. Farm and forest camp. So someone said, we want to get kids more connected with nature and where food comes from. And so we said, awesome, that's like totally related to SustainableCT and what we're trying to create in our state. We'll set you up on our crowdfunding platform, and we'll match every dollar you raise from SustainableCT. So if you raise $5,000, it's all of a sudden 10,000 to run this program. You can see the little like counter there. They had raised over $7,000, and we matched it with money from our program. So it's a cool way. You don't have to be a nonprofit. You don't have to be a town staff person. In fact, like high school students would be awesome. When you guys look around your town and say, we need a mural in that space that's not feeling welcoming, you know, to make it more vibrant, that reflects some history of our community, or we should have a growing space in this vacant lot, or this bikeway or sidewalk system has a missing section. We want to add to that. Anything that you guys think is needed for your community that aligns with like sustainability, which you've heard is very broad. You can just be one person with an idea, and we'll talk to you. It's a really simple kind of phone call rather than a big application process, get you set up on crowdfunding, and then we help advertise your project so other people will crowdfund. And the idea with the crowdfunding is, if you have an idea, but no one else in your community cares about it and wants to even give you $5 or $1, that's not a shared vision. So to us, that's not really an equitable project. But if you're trying to revitalize a space that everyone cares about and they all jump on board, the crowdfunding's easy, and it's an indication that this is a community project. Everyone's owning it and believes in it, and you're connecting and really doing something that's important to everyone. So that's our community match fund. And so other sources of funding, the scenario that you have for Envirothon is looking at some funding that comes through the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. So that's certainly available for a lot of climate and resilience projects. There's tons of money coming through the Inflation Reduction Act and the federal funds that are coming through the Biden administration. And a lot of state agencies have money, like the Department of Agriculture has things to do more climate friendly farming and so on. So we have a whole portal on our website that the page that explains our community match fund, and a portal of all other grants that apply, that are relevant to any action in our roadmap. So other questions or thoughts at this point? Yeah.
I'm gonna embarrass that she works on the Pollinator pathway.
Yay.
That is our what is it called again? The Coalition for Sustainable Tech.
Oh yes, you guys are like part of SustainableCT,
Yeah.
big time. Is that pollinator project through us, supported through? Yeah, because we've supported a ton of them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what's it like? How's it work? Do you have anything to share?
Sorry, I just thought it was nice for that.
Well, yeah, first, congratulations. That's awesome. Good for you.
I mean, we do a lot of gardening and hands-on stuff, and we have a lot of public education at like festivals and sustainability events in town, where a lot of like just regular citizens donate money to us, and we give seeds to like citizens in town so they can start pollinator gardens in their own town. And I don't know too much about the funding, but I know we do have a lot of just funds from that alone. So
That's great. Awesome. So let's think about this from a multi-solving or the flower perspective. Planting pollinators, what are some of the benefits? What are many of the co-benefits? So what drew you to want to be engaged with that project?
this is where Gary and I started at UConn's conservation training partnership program, and you had to do a project in your own community for conservation. And I think was it Joy that we had first? Or was it Joanna?
No, I think you meant Joy first.
Okay, we met someone who connected us with a native plant specialist in town over. She went to UConn with us. And from there, obviously, pollinator pathway is a native plant pesticide-free garden.
Yeah.
There we started getting into the whole, actually, what are native plants, how do they benefit us, and then we went into hands-on stuff, and then we went to public education, and then we presented our project.
Nice, nice. So pollinator projects are really popular. They're beautiful, right? Like flowers and native plants are beautiful, and it's great to see things growing. You mentioned pesticides, so they're reducing pesticide use, which is heavy of fossil fuels, and you're reducing pollution from pesticides into our soil and water. Plants also are helping with the carbon held in soil as well as in the plant tissues. So there's climate benefits there. Yeah, I mean, and just kind of like placemaking and by that I mean like walking into a place and feeling like connected and welcome, like gardens do that, right? And urban forests. So lots of benefits and co-benefits to that.
And on the trail.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. They walk through the trail.
Very cool. Is anyone else involved in like a local project like that, or have an idea that of one that might be cool to think about doing? Yeah.
I mean, this is like really just holding it on like our school. They put a pollinator garden. It's actually a project from a student supported a pollinator garden, and it'll be kind of a part of some agricultural classes to maintain the garden as just like a public awareness campaign as well about the benefits of pollinator gardens.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, well, and so the obvious benefit that I didn't say about pollinator gardens is pollination, right? For the food we're growing and other plants and trees and things to thrive. Yeah, that's great. Anyone else? All right, yeah, so
Some schools and things are looking at rain gardens as
Mhm.
well, which can co-develop as pollinator gardens, but their focus is to allow stormwater or water to get back into the ground rather, so it decreases flooding along roadways and opens up things. So, you know, the extension of one to the other is
Yes.
also a good thought.
yeah, that's a great
So
idea.
open up concrete. So next pollinator. Everybody loves to cut through.
Yeah,
Town also does like the sunflower, I don't know what they call it.
The summer of sunflowers, so
Yes.
through a coalition, we like give out seeds, sunflower seeds, and we plant them around.
Yeah. I
nice.
think I've seen it in other towns too, but they give anybody in the town access to some sunflower seeds, and then you see them planted in different houses and the, you know, in municipal buildings or sunflowers, and yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's like an easy way to kind of connect with people and have some beauty, bring some beauty into your town. Yeah. Yes.
I just wanted to point out, I work for Conservation District in Pollinator Pathway as part of our plant sale initiative that we do every year. The one thing about Pollinator Pathway is to understand that certain pollinators only go 750 yards before they need to find food,
Yeah.
shelter, and clean water. And if you think about that, that's less than a quarter mile. And during COVID and pandemic, the only way of connecting and finding commonality sometimes is going out and walking in a neighborhood. So
Mhm.
the creatures that pollinate farm fields, et cetera, that are being decimated by lack of connectivity is really connected to the answer about climate change, which is understanding the connectivity between somebody who lives in up and goes to Housatonic Valley High School up in the beautiful end of the state, being connected to somebody that lives in Waterbury under Linux Master and has a totally different social climate in terms of what they do, what they see, what they do. And the whole connectivity issue, which is all about sustainable CT, which is why I like the program so well, is that it addresses the need for sustainability and resiliency for towns to work together, have common goals as defining them, which do really address underneath climate change and equity.
Mhm. Thanks. Yes.
How did you say we can find out if our town is?
We can, yeah, let's go to the map in just a second, because this is pretty much my last slide. Our website, which I'm going to show you in a minute, has tons of resources. And I guess these slides you can send out, Sue, if you'd like, so people can click on the links. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. So the list of have you guys, you've seen your scenario, right?
No,
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I like, all right, well, you're gonna need to pay attention to like how towns think. Sorry about that. So, how towns think and make decisions. And obviously you're gonna have to pay attention to climate solutions. So we've got lots of those things already here. You don't have to sit around and say, what could a town do that would address climate change? You can, like you should, but we have like a whole map of them listed out. So feel free to look at that, and especially the ones with climate leader designation. I've got the links here. The equity toolkit, how do you kind of connect with everyone in the community and bring them in on co-creation of solutions. We have a separate report that you might want to look at for every town in Connecticut that pulls like census data, like, you know, how many people in the town below this age and above that age, race, ethnicity, renters, homeowners, all that stuff. But it also layers it with questions that this organization called Data Haven have asked people about community well-being. So it layers the demographic stuff with questions like, do you feel safe in your community? Yes or no? Are you involved in town decision-making? Yes or no? Do you feel welcome in your community? So I encourage you to look at that, because it's a great way to kind of, you know, if you're thinking with the hat of a town on, to kind of see what each town in Connecticut has of this layer beyond just the data, but more qualitative data on how people feel about their town. And as we know, that's super important. We did a podcast just recently on, why does it say January 23rd? Because today's the 21st, right? But anyway, I listened to it already. It's posted. So who knows what COP is? COP, when you hear COP 27, it was in Egypt this year. Anyone know what that means? It's like super climate talk. Stands for Conference of the Parties. It's the United Nations framework on climate change. Conference of the Parties, all the countries that are in it together talking about international agreements on climate change. So anyway, there's a conference every year. It was in Egypt this year, and a bunch of students from UConn go. And our communications manager does podcasts every month, and he interviewed students from UConn and their professor who went to COP27. It's really fascinating because if you're thinking about how to make a difference in climate change, and you need, of course, to know that there are local actions that are connected to global implications. This is kind of a nice context, so you might want to listen to that. And then you could reach out to some of these students at UConn and ask them like what they learned, and they could be a resource for you. Okay, so, and we're happy to help in any way we can. So feel free to reach out to us at SustainableCT.org, info@SustainableCT.org. And I'm going to now, okay, good. Here's our website. And www.sustainablect.org. It's loaded with all kinds of stuff. I wanted to show you this. So this is the map of participating towns. And the blue ones are those 131 towns that are registered. The bronze are bronze certified, silver is silver certified. Gold starts this year, so no one's gold certified yet. And the green are the 5 climate leaders. So if you wanted to, got to do all those things to make it happen. Okay, so yes, the website, you click on participating communities at the bottom of the first page, and you come to this page. So like we could either, if we're really good at geography, look at a town by knowing where their dot is, but like who's from a town that wants to see what their town's doing? We'll look at the list map because it's easier. Yes, what town?
Right.
Oh, not participating yet. Yeah. Yeah, maybe they're just not aware of the program. But yeah, see, a lot of towns are doing stuff, and then if they join the program, they get recognition for it. Yeah. Cornwall, yeah. Those guys are definitely, you guys, definitely active in the program. So here we go. Okay, so at this point, they're not yet certified, or I think they were. Let's look at the profile.
Cornwall was certified, but because it's
Yeah.
really only one person doing, who could use some help?
Katie Freigang is like the mover and the shaker out there. So they were certified. It's a 3-year certification. October 2019. So their certification lasted through 2021, 22. It expired just a few weeks, the end of December. But let's look at what they did. And yeah, Katie's doing amazing things out there. So you can kind of look at this, and it's aligned with each of our actions. So this equity process they had to do, you can see kind of a summary of what they've done, and then you can actually click on the documents and see what they did to earn their points towards certification. They did this action on buying local products or inventorying local products and services of businesses in their town. They were also supporting local businesses and advertising that stuff, and so on. So a natural resource wildlife inventory. Yeah, you can see all the things that any town that's participating is doing. Who wants to look at another town? Yeah, let's look at Cheshire for a second. And how we doing on time?
You have 2 minutes.
Okay, yeah, well, if anyone has any questions, so you can both see the profile. You can see if you want to connect with who's doing, our main contact in Cheshire. Here are some names, and you can connect with them and say, I want to get involved in this, or you can click again and look at their report. So what other questions and discussion do we have about this that can be helpful to you?
Are all of those actions that towns have taken, they don't all relate to climate change?
They don't all relate to climate change, but the climate actions do. So we've got this filter for high impact climate actions. And another cool thing about the website, if you want to, let's just say we wanted to find out who's doing pollinator gardens. So that's action 3.12. And then we do the filter. And now these dots, if you clicked on any of them, all of those towns are doing pollinator gardens and have earned points towards certification through that. You could do that for any of the actions, the, energy savings, the electric vehicle infrastructure, and so on. So it's a really robust library of resources for you to use and for towns to learn what other people are doing. What other questions do we have? All right, I have my cards there. Of course, the info is on the PowerPoint. Feel free to reach out. Happy to have conversations with you guys as you work on your project. And yeah, congratulations on working on Envirothon. It's so important, and we're really grateful that you're paying attention to important issues in our state.